Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy. Today we have 2 guests. I'm talking to Dr. Kathy Hirsh-Pasek. She is a professor in the psychology department at Temple University. She directs the Temple Infant and Child Laboratory, where she studies how children learn and flourish. We also have Dr. Roberta Golinkoff, who directs the Child's Play, Learning, and Development Lab at the University of Delaware. They are co-authors of a parenting classic that is now out in a newly revised version. Einstein Never Used Flashcards, How Our Children Really Learn, and Why They Need to Play More and Memorize Less. Welcome, Kathy and Roberta.
Thank you so much. So great to be here.
Thank you. So let's start in 2003, which is the year that this book first came out, and it was the year my first child was born at the end of 2002. So this is my year of becoming a parent, really, was 2003. I remember it being in a pretty intense moment. And not much has changed. So I'm curious, what made you write the book back then? And what made you say, oh, we need to re-up this message?
I think it's the same message, don't you think, Kathy? Only worse.
Oh, my God.
I mean, only need us more.
You talk about the hell that faces parents every single day.
Yeah.
And I think around that time, as I recall, is when we had the tsunami of pamphlets. Everybody was going to tell parents what to do. Now, as a parent, I was just trying to survive each day. The last thing I had time for with 3 kids was sitting around and reading your pamphlets. So what happened, though, was amazing. Roberta and I realized we wrote this book. It was a really successful book. And then they asked us to rewrite it because it was so successful. So that's great.
Yeah.
But wait, 2003 was 4 years before the iPhone came out.
Wow.
I mean, it was 8 years before the iPad came out. So now, if parenting was crazy then, it's insane now.
And it has totally turned our lives upside down, Amy. I don't have to tell you. We spend more time, and I include myself on that. I'm addicted to this little box, but I have to control it. It takes away from our parenting. Of course, not when they listen to your podcast.
Other than that, though.
It takes away from our time with our kids, with our spouses. You know, we're very tempted when we walk around and we're using our phone and our spouse says something to us and we, what, you know, because we're so into something else. We want to help parents enjoy parenting. And when you say how to laugh in the face of, what is your
motherhood?
slogan?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
So I don't want them to laugh ruefully. I want them to laugh with glee because they're witnessing an amazing thing that just happened with their kid.
And I do remember being a parent back then, and I wrote about it, this sort of intensity, the messages that came at you unbidden. But it was different when there wasn't a phone. When I was nursing my babies, I'd have music playing. Maybe I'd have the TV on, but that was it. I wasn't looking at my phone, finding out 10 new ways I was messing up. It wasn't as constant.
It is constant. My son and daughter-in-law just had a baby. I am astounded at what is facing parents today. I found out that there's almost 100 apps out there that you can use to measure every ounce of food your baby's getting and then how much tummy time they're having. Oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed listening to the numbers game of what they have to fill into the app.
Yeah.
Right. Those are supposed to bring reassurance, I would say, that people who create the apps. Like, you'll see right here how much your baby's sleeping or not sleeping. But instead, it's then you have a new job to keep up with them.
Right. I was telling them, you'll probably know without a monitor that your baby just woke up.
Yeah.
But but seriously, they are great parents. And I can imagine that this whole scene is just scaring the heck out of parents. And what we're learning, in fact, there was a new paper literally just came out this week that starting early with all this stuff, so they're going to be great professionals later, whether it's piano or soccer, doesn't work.
You had a study. I wanted to ask you about that, a study that you did, Kathy, on academic preschools versus more traditional play-based preschools. So tell us about that.
Well, the study was really to compare what was going on. This is the 90s as we're approaching the 2000s. And I thought, whoa, something's going on here. Like school has become this bastion of academic learning, and we have to see whether this is really working for kids. And the answer was, it wasn't. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
The kids in the play-based environment, and we call it playful learning. You can still have a learning goal, but the kids in the play-based learning goal environments were happier, had more social emotional control. That's right. Less impulse to do stuff. And guess what? They equaled or did better than the kids in the academic environment with math and reading. Duh.
Right. And were you surprised by that? Or were you hoping to see that in the results? Were you not sure?
Well, you always hope to see, but as a scientist, you have to see what you get.
Right.
But I think Roberta and I expected it because really play is learning. If there was one great epiphany, then I want to throw it to Roberta. The very characteristics of how the human brain learns are exactly the characteristics of how kids play. Isn't that incredible?
Wow.
It's true. One of the reasons, too, that we started out in 2003 was that there were myths being pushed by the marketplace. Now it's a combination of the marketplace and media, which makes everything worse. Because as you pointed out, Amy, in the past, when you nursed your kid, it was a quiet time. You might have had music. Now everybody is using their phone while they're nursing at the same time. So what are the myths that are being pushed on parents? First, faster is better.
Right.
If you can do it faster, if you can get your kid to walk faster, oh, what a heartache that is. It doesn't know which way is up, and they'll fall off the bed and the floor, Faster is better. Make every moment count because you are the sculptor of your child's brain. False. Full stop. False. Parents are omnipotent, and what you do is going to determine your child's success in life. Not so. You want to have loving, nurturing conversations and take your kids to exotic places like the supermarket. No entry fee. And you can talk with your kid there. Your kid can learn tons. You don't have to do the extra classes if you don't want to. And finally, that our kids are empty vessels. It's almost like you could open up the top and pour knowledge in, and your kid will be ready for Yale.
Right.
We have to fight this so that the title of your podcast can be a little bit different. It's what fresh hell could there be, but not
fresh heaven. But Amy, you asked about the characteristics. Let me just go back to them for a moment. So human brains actually learn by being active, not passive. Okay. So it's kind of like when you're drilling a kid and the kid's just a lump on the couch, that's not going to work unless they're engaged in it. So active, engaged, it has to be meaningful to them.
Yep.
If you're trying to read them something they don't understand or teach them something that makes no sense, they won't learn it, okay? Here's the biggie. This is such a biggie. It has to be socially interactive. It turns out the human brain is a social brain. That's how our species was made. So we learn better when we're back and forth in conversation with adults than we do when somebody's just dumping stuff into an empty brain that doesn't exist. And finally, It should be joyful. And human brains love it when they're having fun. You remember those moments.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think about, say, like story time at the library. My dad used to take my niece to story time at the library. It was their time together. And was he doing that to get her into Johns Hopkins? No, he was doing it because it was fun and she could see other little kids and they'd play with some scarves and they'd listen to a story and sometimes she'd wander off and, that it was not, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say like, never take your kid anywhere. It's like, no, I think it's okay to go to story time at the library, right? But it's also okay to take them to the supermarket. And what you're saying is both can be equally interesting learning environments.
Remember, everything that your kid sees is new. Like to us, another trip to the supermarket, not to the kid. Everything is new. Imagine you're in the vegetables and you say, that there's one purple vegetable? And the kid says, what? And you show them an eggplant and you have them feel it and you talk about the texture. It's the only shiny and purple vegetable we got. You make it fun for the kid and for you. How long does that take? About 30 seconds. I know everybody is rushed. I know sometimes when you go to the supermarket, that's when you see parents at their worst. They're most stressed. 30 seconds to calm down for both of you and show them an eggplant. What a difference that could make.
And you also talk about how learning can be iterative. And you gave the example of when you're putting napkins on the table for dinner, that there's one napkin per person. I forget what that's called, but it's a mathematical concept.
One-to-one correspondence.
Well, there you go.
Who would guess, by the way, that setting the table is teaching your 4-year-old basic math skills, right? We never think about that. But the things we engage in, I used to have so much fun. We would take a walk and I would have this game, don't step on a crack. 2 steps forward and 1 step back. If you ever step on a crack. But the kids get into it. We start counting how far they could go without stepping on a crack. Right. And voila, they're counting and using the number line, which turns out to be really, really important for later math learning.
And what I love about this approach, too, is that it's available to us, but it's also easier. The goal for the parent is to observe and to introduce it isn't, but don't take them to bassoon lessons. You have to do it yourself in the home. Like, no, you have to let them use a Tupperware as a drum. Like, that's the assignment to make it
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. And let us take your pots and pans as a drum. Now, I grant you, it sounds awful, but you can have some real fun. So this was during COVID. It was one of my activities with my grandkids. So we had a green bowl, and we had a white bowl, and we had a red bowl. And I turned them upside down, okay? Then I gave the kids 2 forks, and they had to knock out a pattern, 2 green, 1 red, 1 white, okay? Or 2 white, 2 green, 3 red. And the kids were playing music, but what were they really learning? Patterns. What do patterns have to do with? They predict out to formal education. So if we gamify this stuff, look what they can learn.
I'm talking to Dr. Kathy Hirsh-Pasek and Dr. Roberta Golinkoff about their book, Einstein Never Used Flashcards, and we'll be right back. Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that. taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes, at the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today, and let us surprise you.
So, Kathy, you were saying before the break that you're teaching your kids pattern recognition, and I'm hearing the anxious parents who might be thinking, yeah, but how do I know what the games are and what the things are they're supposed to be learning? That's actually what this book is for. So tell us about the things in the book that you walk them towards, that very cool, oh, this is that thing I read about and now it's happening.
So after we tell them how different kinds of things develop, and we really talk about all different kinds of development, we talk about how to bring the lessons home and how to try them with your own kid. We were talking about story time before. One of the things that we ask parents to do starting when their kid is little is hand your kid a book. See what the kid does. Does the kid know to turn it around? Does the kid know where the words are and which way the page is turned? And you can get a lot of idea of the exposure that your kid has had to books, hopefully a lot with you, by seeing how they handle a brand new book that you hand to them. And you can try it like every 6 months and you'll see amazing learning. Now, this sounds like not a big deal, but I hate to tell you, there are kids, probably not among your listeners, who get to school and don't know anything about books and how they're read and where the words are. So it's pretty significant for kids to learn that. They learn it incidentally, having fun with you during story time, which can be any time.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple more examples if I can. So one of the examples to build on story time is, how do you learn the structure of a story? So we had a game in our house where you had to pick a character. I just took whatever popular characters were in magazines and stuff I got, or I printed them out from the computer. By the way, all this is in the book. And then what's the context? You get to pick your context. You could be in a forest. You could be at the swimming pool. And so you have now a character and a context. You have a conflict. And then you get to pick a resolution. Then you get to tell your story. Well, what are you really learning? You're learning how to tell a story in a narrative structure that helps reading development. But let me go to one social one that was so much fun. So I don't know about your moms, but my kids seem to love picking their nose. And I could not figure out how to get around this nose picking stuff. So I decided that we would make a game out of it. At 7:15 in the morning and in the evening, we had nose picking time. Okay. Now you had or got to pick your nose for an entire minute. Do you know how
eons.
tough that is? Okay. So the kids would start. It was 7:15. And I said, come on, guys, you have 45 seconds left. Well, what are we going to do? Just pick your nose. They never picked their nose outside the time window. It was over.
They knew there was a special time for it. So if we want to make it that it's not fresh hell every time you engage in the parenting exchange. You want your kids to develop the fancy name as executive function.
Right.
And everybody knows what it is, but I'll just say real quickly, it's being able to control your impulses. So if the kid next to you is using a pen you like, you don't just grab it. And it's being able to shift rapidly between tasks. That's really important for school, as you might imagine. And to hold things in working memory, like, what do I have to do? I have a problem. So executive function games, we talk about this in the book too, are the kinds of things we played when we were kids. But they make a difference because they help kids learn to control themselves. Amy, did you play red light, green light?
Sure. Or Red Rover, Red Rover.
Red Rover, Red Rover. How about Simon Says?
Right.
Okay, these are all executive function games. You just didn't know it.
Mother, May I? Did you play that?
Yes, I did. It's occurring to me now these are all kind of the same game, but yes, you have to wait your turn.
You're right. You're right. Musical chairs.
Musical chairs, a good one, is how to control yourself, how to stop yourself from doing something, and how to start up when you need to. So one thing you can do, even if you have grandkids you're talking to from afar, you can play freeze dance. You can put on music and tell them they can jump up and around and dance, but when you turn the music off, they got to stop. And you can make that so fun for them.
Let's talk about that because I heard you on another interview, I believe it was Kathy, talking about kids aren't supposed to have screen time before 2. Okay, that's a good idea. Don't stick a screen in front of your baby all the time. But the idea that they're not allowed to FaceTime with their grandparents because that screen time is an over-application.
It's crazy.
No.
Tell us a little bit about how that connection with the grandparents is, 1, positive, and 2, how it can become even more fun with these games.
Oh, absolutely. We do these kinds of things with our own grandkids over Zoom. We want our grandkids to know us. Mine are in California. Kathy's got them in Chicago and in Michigan, and it's rough. So if you want your grandkids to know you, come up with fun stuff that you could do with them. And when you're lucky enough to be let into their lives while they're doing something else, treat it as if you were there.
Here's a case in point. You're seeing I'm in a Zoom. I have these at my ready when I'm talking to my grandkids. We play games. We write stories. And when we write the stories together, that's one of our games. One game we had is that I had my kids, they're into Legos. So I got the same Legos they got. So they build something with their Legos. I copy theirs. And then I make something and see if they can copy me.
Wow. And it'll keep them on the phone with grandma a little longer,
Oh,
right?
it does. It does.
Or your aunt, right?
There you go.
And Kathy and I actually found these in Argentina. I used them with my grandkids and they love them because I can give the person a name. So I have to describe what we're doing because people aren't on video. I am holding up a puppet with a weird face in which you put your hand so that you can even move the puppet's mouth from the inside and show it smiling, etc. You know, this is Esmeralda, and she wants to know, what did you do today that you had a good time at? Can you tell her?
That's so interesting. And why are kids more engaged with a puppet or more willing to talk sometimes? What is it about child development that makes that so?
There's a lot to be said for fantasy. Kids love fantasy. Like a lot of kids are still into Santa Claus and they're into the Tooth Fairy. I hear about that a lot. So kids just love it and they can transfer a lot without any threat to a puppet. It's a great way for them to get their feelings out. And there you are as the grandparent kind of listening in and helping your kids. So, by the way, you can also read over Zoom. And the kids love it when you read a book, especially a book that they have too, and they can just turn the pages with you.
Yes.
These are great ideas. And again, this is not, make sure whenever you talk to your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews, it's enriching or else
That's right.
it's not
Right.
that.
Right.
But this is a way to deepen connection.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The kid is engaged.
Yeah, Amy, imagine what we typically say. You know, the kid gets on and say, hi, what'd you do today? Kid went to school. What happened at school? Good to know.
Nothing.
But nothing ever happens at school. Yeah. So strange.
If you could think of fun things, I had all these little things I was given traveling around the world and speaking. And I will often show them to the kids, especially when they're little, and we'll make up a story and talk about them. And it's such a richer interaction than the kid feeling like they don't want to be there.
Right. Or getting the third degree. What happened? Nothing. How was lunch? Good.
So I want to give you the cure to nothing.
Okay.
Because I think your parents might really like this. So when my kids were in preschool and now for my grandkids, I ask for the class list. Okay, that means I have the name of every kid in their class. Now, instead of asking general questions where we'll always get nothing or they won't answer, I say, oh, was Johnny playing at the water table today? The answer I get is, no, he doesn't like the water table. He was painting. Oh, that's right. He was using the blue paint, wasn't he, to paint the sky? No, I don't think you really saw his painting. It was the red one that he did of the fire truck. I am telling you, I knew more about my kids' environment than most of the parents in the school. And they would call me and they would say, can you tell me what's really going on in that school?
So what's Johnny doing? Right, at the easel, right? Why
Is
isn't he at the
really
water table?
doing nothing? And I had the scoop. And the other thing about it that I really want to stress is that in something like FaceTime, they get to know you. And maybe there is nothing, no, I'll say it firmly. There is nothing more important than human to human relationships. Nothing. And when our kids form them, they feel safe. They learn a lot from us. They have someone who's trusted. And believe it or not, because our brain is a social brain, when they learn the social skills and know who you are, that's helping them be prepared for learning.
We're talking to Dr. Kathy Hirsh-Pasek and Dr. Roberta Golinkoff. Their book is called Einstein Never Used Flashcards, and we'll be right back.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
Okay, Roberta, you teed us up before the break. Technology, which I will say, like in the time my kids were going through school, I saw personal tablets and robots introduced with great fanfare. This is going to change learning, and then slowly taken back out. As to my school's credit, I think they learned that, okay, this is not having the outcome that we thought. So talk to us about technology.
So the first thing I have to point out, because Kathy and I will both sound rather negative, is we are not Luddites. We are very attached to our personal computers and our phones, and we couldn't live without them.
And we believe in FaceTime, Roberta. That's how we've really communicated with our kids.
But I am afraid to say parents are using it too much. I mean, look, even before there was this technology, I would turn on the TV so I could take a shower and put my kid on a video. You need this stuff sometimes. What happens is you miss out on social connection if it happens too much. Kathy just gave you a whole thing about how people are the most important things in children's lives. I couldn't agree more. But we minimize the amount of time that kids spend talking with us and other significant people in their lives by letting them be on screens too much. Now, remember, not all screens are equal, right, Amy? Some aren't bad and some are terrible. So that's the other thing. You got to look at it.
It's just not all the time, right? Say like screens in a restaurant. Sometimes you need to have it, but to maybe sit down and immediately get the screen out. Like, let's see how this goes. There's a lot to look at here. There's a lot to learn in this environment.
Exactly. And our friend Michael Rich calls himself the mediatrician from Harvard, and he talks about finding balance. And I think that's the key. But I'm going to give you a place where I don't think there's balance. Okay? 2 places, in fact. Number 1, parents are using the media too much in front of kids. I learned yesterday, you ready for this? We, on average, check our phones every 4.5 minutes. Let me say it again. Every 4.5 minutes. Since you and I started this conversation, we would have checked our phones like 15 times. That's not okay because it breaks the human-to-human relationship. And secondly, the new AI toys are toxic. They promise to be companions, friends, to teach love and relationships. No.
So I have to say what AI toys are before we go on, because we both have a thing about them, because we want kids to have real human relationships. We are talking about the things that came on this holiday season. I hope you don't own any, dear viewers. Things like plushy toys that can answer children. They have what's called generative AI in them. So the kid says, you want to play house? And the thing says, yeah, I want to play house. The kid is interacting with this thing, but not learning language and not learning about the world, because what this thing does is it mostly repeats, which is not what friends do, or your mom. So if you want your children to continue to learn new vocabulary items, to continue to learn about the world, you won't have your child interacting with these AI monsters, which take away from the opportunity to have genuine conversations and learn new things.
So, Roberta, can I butt in for a sec? I just got back with a trip with my grandkids, and my oldest is 10. So I said to her, really been thinking about these AI toys, like the new teddy bear that came out. And I wondered, what's your opinion? And she says, not good. I said, well, what do you mean not good? She says, well, did you ever notice those toys just like want to say how much they like you and love you? They want to keep you in some kind of conversation. She says, have you ever been in a 5th grade class with 5th grade girls? I said, yeah. She says, well, they don't just tell you that they love you and that they want to do what you want to do. If you're going to learn how to be with a 5th grade girl, then you better not be on those toys.
Good point.
So she has learned something about the world that's very significant for relationships, which is that there is a back and forth and that you do not receive uniform praise and encouragement. That's a really important thing to learn, to negotiate for what you want. The AI chatbots do not give kids the opportunity to learn those things.
That's called theory of mind, isn't it? That you develop in preschool, the idea that other people have different thoughts and feelings than you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about when you were saying faster is better. I think there's also a truism held in our society that sooner is better. If kids can learn to read in 1st grade, why not kindergarten? Why not pre-K? So tell us about what you have found in your research.
Well, it's not just our research, it's research around the world. The kids who start early don't necessarily have any big advantage over the kids who start later. Now, we're not saying that if you have a kid who comes to you with a book and says, what does this word say? You go, oh, no, I can't tell you. No, we're not saying that. If your kid shows interest in what word letters the sounds make and, what words are on the page, go for it. Great. But to buy a reading kit like that sold by a guy named Robert Titzar, which is your baby can read by 18 months. Now it's a little bit older because he got a lot of gas about that. But even age 3, there are some kids who aren't ready to be taught reading till they're 5 or 6. And kids who are pushed to learn early may turn off. It's not good for them, and it doesn't advance them relative to kids who can't read early. Why? Because they don't know what the heck they're reading. They don't have the vocabulary to keep up with it.
I think in general, there's just a lot of variability in the way kids develop. The other day, I was with my 18-month-old nephew. Now, my 18-month-old nephew isn't walking yet. He's almost there. You know, he's on the one-hand train, and then he finds the nearest chair to hold on to. He'll be fine. But we've got parents so scared, she's already taken him for an MRI.
Oh.
So I just want to say that we know from the research, looking, I think it was New Zealand, they started reading at age 7. Now, 80% of kids and 80% of the kids in the US, preschool people think, oh, they must be reading before they get to first grade. So what did those kids in New Zealand look like? Were they all behind? Is that what happened? Nope. The kids caught up by second grade. So, doesn't seem it was a real advantage. Then let's take this paper that just came out. Whether it was in piano or whether it was in a sport, did the kids who started focusing early, are they going to be the great ones later? Oops. Nope. It turns out that the meanderers who get to go and explore different things, they're the ones who end up being great later. So every time we look at it, again, it comes out, it just ain't the case that if you rush it, it's better.
And here's a study, Amy, that's really old. You know why? Because we keep revisiting these same issues. Crazy. There was this woman, Myrtle McGraw. I always talk about this when parents are worried that their kids aren't moving fast enough. She found pairs of identical twins. Now, what that means is they share the same genes. So any difference between them will be a function of the environment and possibly instruction that they're offered. And she taught one twin to use the scissors. You know, takes a little practice to do that. And she taught another one to climb stairs when they were little and kept it from the second twin. When the second twin caught up, they were at exactly the same level as the first twin. In other words, pushing to make it happen early didn't make those kids super stair climbers or fabulous cutters.
I want to make sure people take away from this conversation that it isn't that you have to replace all the worrying you were doing in one bucket with the worrying of a different kind. It is in the end that you can hold all of this more lightly because learning happens. I'm going to quote you. Research shows, I'm quoting you, that a child's intellectual awakening takes place during the normal adult-child interactions that occur in everyday purposeful activities. We're making this easier for the people listening, not harder.
Yeah, and that's the idea. The idea is when I saw the 100 apps that I could record literally everything this baby is doing, I thought, I'm going to go nuts. And I was on a panel last year, and I know I probably came across as contradictory. I didn't mean to. The first woman told about how many pamphlets she had and videos she had that the parents should watch to help the kid do blah. Then the next person came in, and they said, we have a whole library for parents. And I'm sitting there as a mom of 3 and a grandmother of 3. And I said, I'm so sorry. And they said, what's the problem? I said, I know your pamphlets must be wonderful. I know all the advice you're giving must be terrific. I was happy to get my kids in the car and get them to school. By 9 o'clock, I felt accomplished. That's in the morning, okay? They went out with shoes on. They had had breakfast. So we got to give ourselves a break. And parenting can be so joyful. And can I give one other example?
Sure.
So the other day, I'm on FaceTime with my new now 4-month-old grandkid. And in that moment, that baby, for the first time, reached out her hand, grabbed this toy she had, and pulled it into her body.
You're probably screaming, knowing you.
Right? I'm screaming. And I said to her parents, oh my God, did you see that? They saw it, thank God. I said, now watch her hand. This is what our book does. Watch her little hand. She didn't just go like this. she opened her hand to the exact size of the thing she was going to grab. When you notice that, you realize it's way more important than a 2-year-old knowing phonics. That is amazingness. And if we knew how to see it, we would appreciate being a parent so much more, because it's hard, but there are these moments of glory.
And this is what we do. And Einstein never used flashcards. I'm serious.
Yeah.
We tell people what to look for, amazing achievements that their kids are accomplishing just from happy nurturing. And it really gives parents insight into how brilliant their kids are and how they don't need to buy all these kits and extra things, because with their nurturing and talking with the child and reading books with the child and taking them to exotic places like the supermarket, the kid is getting sufficient stimulation to grow into a good human being. I think it's important that we give parents a way to think about the pressures they're under, because we feel bad that parents feel so pursued by every corner of the marketplace. So in the book, we have a mantra: reflect, resist, and recenter. So the lady down the street calls you up and says, I'm taking my 18-month-old Irving to French lessons. You want to carpool? You can think about it. I know you're supposed to start languages early, but he has such a good time playing. So you're reflecting. And then you call her back. You say, no, I think I'll pass on the French lessons. Okay. Now, we have no problem with going to Gymboree or things where you're using your physical self, and the mom and the baby, everybody's having a good time. But French lessons on top of everything else, I don't think it's necessary to do to yourself. So you reflect, you resist, you call the mom back and tell her in the most polite way you're not going to do it. And then you recenter and you think about, what would I like to do with Irving? Oh, I'd love to go out into the park. It's a gorgeous day. This gives you a way to say no and to feel good about it, because you've reflected, you've resisted, and now you're going to recenter.
That's perfect. I've been talking to Dr. Kathy Hirsh-Pasek and Dr. Roberta Golinkoff. Their book, out in a newly revised edition, is Einstein Never Used Flashcards: How Our Children Really Learn and Why They Need to Play More and Memorize Less. I'm going to put a link to buy the book in the show notes for this episode. It's available wherever you buy books. But Kathy and Roberta, tell our listeners where else they can find you.
Well, we started an Instagram. So this is Grandma's Start an Instagram. So the most important thing about it is, if you have things you'd like to know the answer to, please message us, and I promise we'll get to it and put it on the Instagram. It's Dr. Kathy with a K and Dr. Ro, R-O. And if you watch the Instagram and message us, we'll answer your questions, we promise.
Wow, that is a great opportunity. Well, we'll put the link to the Instagram as well. And we loved hearing from you, your wisdom and your reassurance. That is just what we're looking for here. Kathy and Roberta, thanks for talking to me today.
Oh, you're a pleasure, Amy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.